Hello and welcome to the first of many finals editions of the NBL1 show. My name is Megan Hustwaite. Great to have finals. Finally, in a few of our conferences at the weekend, there were some massive results, some upsets as well, and some remarkable individual performances for two other conferences of ours. They've now wrapped up their regular season and will enter into finals this weekend. We've also had some MVPs of our conferences crowned around the country. In NBL1 West, it's congratulations to Alex Sharp and Devondrick Walker, who took out their respective titles. And in NBL1 North, Courtney Woods and Jason Cadee, congratulations to them. Well, speaking of Jason Cadee, John Guana can't join us this week, so we've called on the king of the Gold Coast, the king of NBL1 himself, Jason Cadee, to join us. I'm really looking forward to having a chat to him about his incredible season with the Rollers in NBL1 North and a big change that's coming for him as he joins the Adelaide 36ers for the upcoming NBL season. Anyway, it is finals time officially for everyone now, so let's crack into it and catch up with our experts. Well, the opening week of finals provided all of the action and plenty more in NBL1 South, and to take us through all of that is Matt Hickey. Welcome, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. It was a massive weekend about how good's finals basketball. You just got to love it.
It is the best. Let's go straight to the men, where there was a thriller, and it was cometh the moment, cometh Nick Marshall.
Yeah, that is for sure. I mean, you talk about finals basketball. This was the epitome of finals basketball. We had overtime. We had calls that were referred to the monitors that were overturned. It was all happening. And as you said, yeah, Nick Marshall, what a performance for Mount Gambier. 34 points, and the Pioneers get the win at Frankston in front of what was a pretty raucous crowd. And I spoke to a few people that were in the building, and there was a lot going on in there, I think. So he actually originally had a game winner in regulation that was reviewed and then waved off. And then Dan Trist, who had a great game for the Blues, he finished with 24 points, 12 rebounds. He also had what he thought was a game winner in overtime from a tip-in that was also later waved off. It was just all happening at Frankston.
That game really had it all. Let's go to Sandringham, where they created an upset, and no surprise, it was their stars that showed the way.
Yeah, Ben Eyre was terrific for the Sabres, and what an upset it was. They knock over the number one seeds, Knox, and booked themselves straight into a preliminary final. So they won 97-90 away from home. Ben Eyre, 23 points and 12 assists, which is a massive game. We see a lot of double-doubles in the NBL1, but they're normally always with rebounds. You don't see as many with assists, so you've got to tip the cap there. And CJ Asuncion-Bird, who's played a few seasons in the NBL1 now, he spent time at Nunawading and Ringwood. He was fantastic for Sandringham as well. 24 points on 10 of 13 shooting. So the Sabres, with the big upset, earned themselves a week off.
Let's go over to the women now, where Eltham made a statement too.
Yeah, big win for Eltham, and it was just the style they did it. They won by over 20 points against Frankston. They were just terrific defensively, 75-53 in the end. I mean, Annalie Maley, as we come to expect, was fantastic. She filled the stat sheet, 22 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists. But as I mentioned, it was the defense that was really, really impressive for Eltham, and something that I think might have the other teams a little concerned. They kept Chloe Bibby to just 11 points on 4 of 20 shooting, and they kept Ella Badish scoreless. So that's two really fantastic players who struggled offensively thanks to the Wildcats defense. So a team to watch as the playoffs continue.
Yeah, that's an incredible defensive effort, and to limit them like that in a final is pretty incredible. Speaking of incredible, another week and another win for Bendigo, but this win, and I guess they continue to be more important as the weeks go on.
Yeah, I mean, every next win now is even more important than the other for Bendigo. They extend that winning streak to 23 games, beating Waverley by 11 points, 75-64. And I think there might have been a few nerves heading into this one. We can only assume, I mean, you go through the season undefeated. It's such a massive achievement. But then a lot of the assumption is, as we've seen with many teams in the past, is that they tend to falter at the business end of the season. Well, Bendigo has ticked one box, which they'll be very happy to tick. They've got a few more before they can take home their championship, but they did it in the second quarter, 26-14 in that period, and they just dominated the glass, plus 20 on the rebound count. So the Braves continue on their merry way.
They sure do. Looking ahead to this weekend, what's coming up?
Yeah, big games across the board for the women. Mount Gambier take on reigning champions Ringwood. This is a really interesting battle. Mount Gambier, of course, earned the double chance, but now will have to do it the hard way. Ringwood looked really good on the weekend, getting a big victory there. So it's going to be really interesting contest. The Hawks actually have had the wood over the Pioneers in the past, so I'm going to be interested to see how that one plays out. And then the other game is Waverley versus Eltham, and again, talk about stars. It's stars everywhere in that game. Two blockbusters for the women. For the men, Frankston versus Diamond Valley. I think Frankston should get the win there, but it is finals basketball, so we just never know what's going to happen. Shout out to Lockie Barker, who secured himself an NBL contract with the Jack Jumpers as well, so massive for him. There's been many people around the NBL1 who've been saying he deserves a really good go at the NBL, and now he's going to get it. And then the other game, which I think is going to be thrilling, Knox versus Eltham. So Knox, the number 1 seeds, now face an Eltham team that is stacked with talent. And could we see the Raiders go out in straight sets? Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Oh my gosh, it would be incredible if they did. And no doubt your very glowing comments about Eltham got lots of traction last week. So we love to see people watching the NBL1 show and going with those opinions and analysis. So we love to see it. Looking forward to this weekend, and we'll wrap it up with you next week. Thanks, Matt.
Can't wait.
Well, John Guana, our NBL1 North expert, is away this week, so we thought it was only fitting to bring on the king of NBL1 North, Jason Cadee, fresh from his MVP win as well. Jason, welcome and congratulations on your season so far.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad I can replace John. That's hard to do.
Yeah, it's big shoes to fill, isn't it? But we think you can do okay.
I didn't know I was doing that. I probably would have turned it down if that was the case.
Now, before we get into it, we always like to sort of see where our guests are joining us from. You know, some of our NBL1 players are professionals like yourself. We've got people who work and study, some that still go to school. Where are you Zooming us from today, Jason Cadee?
I'm actually just sitting at SeaWorld. So my young fella about an hour ago just started talking about SeaWorld because it was on TV. And I said, righto, let's go, buddy. So we're here right now. And my mum is currently walking around with the kids while I'm on here.
Fantastic. The perks of living on the Gold Coast, I guess.
It is. It's obviously a great time. Today's not the ideal day, but it's a bit quieter when it's school holidays at the theme parks. I learned that when I played here 12 years ago, so good time to be here.
Let's talk about your season. It has been incredible personally and team-wise as well. When a veteran like you plays in NBL1, what do you want to get out of a campaign?
I mean, a lot of things. For me, it's become a real space to be able to tick over and be able to play, I guess, throughout the off-season and enjoy my basketball, but also keep my body ticking over. But it's also, I just love playing basketball, so I get the chance to keep playing. And then in recent years, like, I guess, playing with a lot of young fellas who have the ambition and they want to be professional players or go to college, and so to be able to help them and also help people, as you said before, some people work and just enjoy playing basketball. So to be able to play alongside them and try and help them win a title when they're kind of taking time out of their work and busy schedule to play. So it's a bit of everything for me, and it's just a space I've always loved playing in.
What's so good about the Rollers, the club, the community? You've really immersed yourself up there. What do you love about it the most?
I think part of it, I was lucky in a way. I knew a little bit of it from when I played here as an NBL player back in the day. And then I guess the next part is, so there's some links from when I was here when I was younger. And then also the fact Anthony Petrie's the head coach, he's my best mate. Everyone knows that. I played with him my first few years in the NBL and throughout. And having him coach it and then be able to kind of work with him / also just the people we have around the club and the teammates I have, it makes the whole experience really enjoyable. And through those things, it's also made it successful as well, which has been pretty cool.
So enjoyment is something you've already spoken a lot about. Do you love the game as much now as you ever have?
Yeah, which is tough because I've actually said to a few people, the last few years in the NBL have been really extremely tough for me. Just a lot of outside things to deal with, a lot of stuff that wasn't basketball. And so Gold Coast has actually really saved my love for basketball the last few years, just my enjoyment of it. A lot of people don't see the tough side of it, and I've definitely had extremely tough times through the last 2 years NBL-wise, and Gold Coast has really helped me keep that enjoyment, keep that love, and It's just a space that I've been involved in basketball my whole life, so there's no doubt going to be tough times. But it's been really nice having Gold Coast there in the off season to really just remind me why I love basketball.
Yeah, love that. And just adding on to that, how important is family, Jazz and the kids, like just giving you perspective and support when you do have those tough times, even if they stem from things that are happening off the court?
Massive, massive, and for me, as a lot of people know, my family's so entrenched in basketball. It has been since I was little through mum and dad, and now Jazz and the kids. And I think the one thing that basketball has reminded me of, I look at Louis now; he's almost 4. We go to games. He's running around with Peach's young fella, who's like his little best mate. He just thinks basketball is the greatest space right now, whether it's an NBL game or a Gold Coast game, because he can run around with his mates and basketball's on. And now Jazz playing this year, deciding to play for her, like it's just made our family, like our off season has been basketball, basketball, basketball. But it's kind of how my whole life's been. So it really is a space that my family truly loves, and I love being able to be a part of it and see my kids now enjoying it as well.
Yeah, and your face lights up when you talk about it, so that says it all. What is it like having this experience in basketball with your own family, given, you grew up in a famous basketball family, and I'm sure there were a lot of experiences that you now have with your kids that you had with your family as a little tacker?
I think it just kind of reminds me a lot of my childhood. I think it more, I guess as we get older, we forget a lot of the things when we were younger, but seeing Louis and the enjoyment he gets, especially because he now understands it. Like the other day, I walk off after a game and here's Louis on the court with no shirt on, no shoes on, just running around the basketball stadium. And it's the middle of winter. And you forget how much kids just enjoy that environment. And so I think a lot of it for me, I'm not reliving it through them, but I'm being reminded of what I kind of grew up going to West Sydney Slammers games, Razorback games when I was a little kid, and it's just cool to know that I feel like I'm putting my family in a great place to grow up.
And it sounds like from those antics, Louis is definitely your son. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree there.
Very much so.
Let's talk about the 50 piece. You had 52 points in one game this season. Is that your highest output, and what did the kids think of that?
It's not actually. I think I still have the New South Wales record. I had 54 in a game playing for Bankstown. Louis not at the stage where he really knows what's going on in that stuff, but it's actually the first time I've had 50 and been a little disappointed. I feel like I left. I had about 4 minutes to go, and I didn't even know I had 50 till 2 minutes to go. And someone told me what I had. I think it was Adam Gibson. Actually, he was on the sideline, and he said, "You've got 52, get 60." And so I kind of feel like I probably have let one slip in trying to have 60, but as I said to someone, it's kind of not who I am. So once I found out I had 52 and tried to get more, I actually didn't score again, which makes a lot of sense because I just play the game how it goes and kind of worry about the team more than myself. But yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't get 60.
So through to the semi-finals, you play the Pirates on Friday. How much would it mean to you to have success with this team and this club and community this season?
Yeah, a lot. I think this year has been different to last year. I feel like last year we had a lot of moving pieces, but we had a lot of talent last year in terms of experienced talent. Not that we don't have talent this year. We've got a lot of great players and a lot of good kids coming through, but this year is very, very different to last year. And we've been playing some really good basketball with some kids that are first year in the NBL1 or maybe even second year. I forget sometimes even young Preston Legassic, this is his first time playing finals basketball as a senior, and I'm out there expecting him to do all these great things, sometimes forgetting that just because he's so good, he's still so young and learning. And so this week will be tough. Last week was tough. We all knew that was going to be tough playing Rip City, and we play against one of my great friends in Lamar Patterson. So any team with a Lamar Patterson in it is going to be good and firing, and we'll have a lot of work to do this week.
Now, it sounds like heading into the new NBL season, obviously a new chapter as well at Adelaide, but you seem like you're in just a great place to enjoy your basketball and start a new page in South Australia.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, as I said, it's been challenging the last few years in the NBL, but Brisbane holds a very close place in my heart because it's where my family started. It's somewhere I grew to love. The people around Brisbane in basketball, like I've met so many great people that I that I'll talk to for a long time. And so I feel like I made a lot of great connections in Brisbane. But basketball is a professional sport. It's a business. And so sometimes those decisions have to take place. And moving to Adelaide with CJ coaching, a place I'm familiar with, I am looking forward to it. It's a little bit of a fresh start. And I am just looking forward to getting there and kind of tying my shoes on and getting to practice. So it'll be a good change and something I'm really excited for.
The 36ers are very lucky to have you. The Rollers, NBL1 as well. Obviously, your playing CV speaks for itself, but a wonderful human, and everyone at the Rollers is very lucky to have you there leading the way. Enjoy the theme park, Jason Cadee, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, the regular season has come to an end in NBL1 East, and to bring us up to speed on what will happen next is our expert Jacinta Govind. Welcome, Jacinta.
Hi, Megan. Thank you. I am very excited and pleased that round 18 has finished up the East competition and ready for finals.
We are ready for finals, but let's talk about what did happen in the final round of the regular season, because there was an overtime thriller in the men's.
Yes, the Bandits took Maitland Mustangs to overtime again. So it's another big overtime game for the Albury-Wodonga Bandits men's team. But despite the Bandits out of finals contention, they did continue to push a lot of top teams well past their limits in the last 3 rounds, and this game against Maitland Mustangs was no exception. In overtime, the Bandits won the overtime period 15-12, with free throws being a big factor for the game, with the Bandits shooting 36 free throws for the game. And the showdown came down to the big 3 for the Albury-Wodonga Bandits, being Jameer Coleman, Michael Parks and Lachlan Cummings. All 3 athletes doing plenty, with Coleman ending with 26 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals and 2 blocks. Michael Parks had 26 points, 11 rebounds, 4 steals, and Cummings had 28 points, 5 rebounds and 4 assists. But for Maitland, they weren't going away too quietly. They had Will Cranston-Lown leading the charge for them with 28 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists and 5 steals, with the final score being 117-114. So before this game, though, Maitland were placed 6th, and now they have finished 7th. So I think, as a friend of mine would like to put it, this game may have been a bit of a banana skid for Maitland going into the finals.
Oh dear, those banana skins can be quite pesky. Now let's talk about the COE, because things have been tight for them too.
Yeah, so they have spent some time away recently. They had a break from the competition to attend the NBA Global Academy Games, and they actually haven't played in NBL1 East since round 13. So to finish their regular season, they had a double-header weekend and looking like a very different roster. So some of the changes to their roster includes losing Alex Tui, Alex Condon and Jensen Bradkey, but they have added Kai Savage and John Furphy. So the roster has some stability with Ben Henschel, but he may be quite important for them leading into finals. And the likes of Rocco Zakarski, he hasn't suited up for weeks. But in this doubleheader, after having such a long break, they actually suffered a 15-point loss to the Sydney Comets in Alexandria, with the final score being 95-80. And for the Comets, it was Wani Swakala-Bullock who led the way with 25 points and 9 rebounds, and he was strongly supported by Archie Woodhill, who had 23 points and 12 rebounds. But then the COE travelled to Hills Basketball Stadium to have their final game against the Hills Hornets, and they only won by 3, winning that game 74-77. So for the Hills, it was the import Sean Montague who was best with 17 points and 9 rebounds, followed by Ben Kierans, who had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists and 3 steals. So over these 2 games, the COE have dropped their 3-point percentage to just 24%, which is quite unlike them. So I'm really interested to see if it was fatigue that was a bit of a factor, because they also lost the 4th quarter of both of those games by 10 points. So COE were very highly favoured to win the NBL1 comp for this season in East, but with roster changes and perhaps a little bit of instability, a bit of a question mark to see, where they stand going into elimination finals next week.
Yeah, it's a very unique situation for the COE because of all those factors you mentioned, and they play a lot of basketball too outside of NBL1. Now, we've been talking about the race for ladder spots right around the country in our varied conferences, but gee, did it come down to the wire? Tell us about what happened for a bit of a logjam for finals places in the men's.
Yeah, unique, as you said before, with COE situation, and a logjam is a very way to describe this particular situation. And I can't tell you how often this would happen, but we literally had to wait until round 18 was well and truly over to determine the top 8 placings in the NBL1 East men's competition. So the top 4 was pretty well cemented going into round 18, with COE, Inner West Bulls, Canberra Gunners and North Bears were pretty safely cemented in the spots 1 to 4. However, the fight for positions 5 to 8 was between the Sutherland Sharks, the Hills Hornets, the Maitland Mustangs and the Newcastle Falcons. But what makes this kind of combination really interesting is that, with the exception of Newcastle and Maitland, these 4 teams in the last 4 placings contention had only played each other once during the season, making the splits that were won and lost earlier in the season very important to determine the final positions. So before round 18, the Sutherland Sharks were actually sitting in 8th spot and expected to play COE in the elimination final next week. But because of the results in round 18 and the splits during the season, that resulted in a 4-way tie between Sutherland, Hills Hornets, Maitland Mustangs and Newcastle Falcons, because they all ended the season with a 14-8 record. But because of these results and the splits, it is in that order of Sharks, Hornets, Mustangs and Newcastle that have now placed 5th to 8th.
That is an unbelievable finish for those clubs, and hopefully a bit of a taste of what's to come with a very tight final series. Let's shift our focus over now to the women's conference in NBL1 East. And a player who's been a great servant of the game right around the country has called it time.
She sure has, and come to a little bit of a surprise. I only came across this story by accident from one of her teammates' Instagram stories. Shout out to Chloe Tuliak. Bianca Duffelmeyer has announced her retirement from the game. So Duffelmeyer is a Canberra native and enjoyed a successful career locally and internationally, having spent 2 seasons with the University of Alabama of Birmingham. And Duffelmeyer also spent some time playing for Bendigo in the WNBL, and I think in Seaball perhaps as well. But Duffelmeyer had quite a turbulent 2023 season with the Canberra Nationals due to various injuries. However, in round 18, she ended her career in style, having 30 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals against Illawarra in a 56-104 win on the road. And now we know that Duffelmeyer has done a little bit of commentating in the past, probably some time ago. So as we say that we wish her all the best for the future, I do hope that she manages to stay in the game, like in touch with the game somehow, whether that perhaps be back in the commentary box.
Who knows? It's always great to see players continue their involvement in the game, no matter what or where it is. Now, talking about finals, let's discuss who scraped into the finals for the women.
Yeah, similarly to the men, there are a few teams in the women's competition who had to wait until round 18 was done and dusted to learn if they had reached finals and what placing they ended up with on the ladder. And it wasn't as dramatic as the men's comp, but it was a little bit turbulent there for the Sydney Comets and the Albury Wodonga Bandits in the women's comp. And they had a sweating in round 18 because both were desperate to claim their spot in the top 8. Most of the ladder placings for the women's were already confirmed going into round 18, but Comets and Bandits, their fate was yet to be decided. So it started, though, with a rescheduled game between both of these teams that was postponed earlier from the season because there was some health and safety protocols in one of the earlier rounds. So the Comets had to travel down to Albury for this game, and they were leading by half time. But the Bandits stormed home, winning the fourth quarter 28-25, and that was sealed by Emma Mahadi with a big buzzer beater in the corner. It was like something out of an NBA final. She had a hand in her face. She was fading away. It was pure heroics from Mahadi. And so she sent the game into overtime. Then the Comets were just too good in extra time, and they won 101-95 in the end. But in this game, Shyla Hill was on show with 30 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and she played the entire 45 minutes. And she was supported by Vanessa Panousis, who had 26 points. But for the Albury-Wodonga Bandits, Mallory Bates led the way with 26 points and 12 rebounds, followed by Emma Mahadi with 19 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. Now, Michaela Pivich, who racked up 2 triple-doubles 2 weeks in a row not too long ago, neared another triple-double in this game with 18 points and 6 rebounds and 9 assists, but she held on to it for the next day when the Bandits had to play the Maitland Mustangs in a must-win. And in that game against the Mustangs, she had 16 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. And very importantly, the Bandits beat Maitland. So Comets now finish at 7th place, and the Bandits have finalised their position at 8th.
Wow, what a dramatic finish for those clubs. And let's finish with a chat about Norths.
Yeah, Norths are really peaking at the right time, I think. They had a big win against Sydney Comets on Sunday to finish their season. They beat the Comets at home 101-80. And Jolene Anderson was definitely on show in this game. She had a double-double with 31 points and 15 rebounds, and just to go with it, she had 6 assists and 72% shooting overall, while Emily Simons backed her up with 18 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 blocks, so just absolutely everywhere on the court, with 50% shooting overall. And unsung hero of the North Bears, Maddie O'Hare, had 25 points and 5 rebounds and 4 assists, but the Comets, they were actually without Shyla Hill, so they had to rely heavily again on Vanessa Panousis and Jada Crawshaw. Panousis having 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and Crawshaw having 13 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. So there was some broad skill sets on show in this game from both teams, and I feel for the statisticians and the people on the bench having to keep up with all of that.
Yeah, a very busy outing for everyone. Some key playmakers there who will no doubt have a say on what happens in the finals. We're looking forward to this finals campaign, and we'll talk about it with you next week, Jacinta. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you then.
Looking forward to finals time. I'll speak to you again, Megan.
Well, the first week of finals has been completed in NBL1 Central, and to discuss all that happened at the weekend is our Central expert, Tristan Prentice. Welcome, Tristan.
Hello, Megan, and what a fantastic weekend it was. And also we had the Halls Woolacott medal as well. We crowned a back-to-back Halls winner in the NBL1 Central. Michaela Williams, the first to do it since 2002-2003, Deanna Smith. And Yawan Stepney from the Woodville Warriors, the Woolacott medal. But let's start talking about these finals. It was an incredible first weekend.
Well, congratulations to those two winners. Quite a few MVPs crowned around the country in varying conferences, which is great to see. But let's start with South Adelaide and Woodville in the men's elimination final, because it was a familiar name, a veteran and a superstar of NBL1 Central who delivered in Daniel Johnson.
He certainly did, DJ, but the game was not marred without controversy. There was a bizarre chain of events which included an evacuation for a fire alarm with 7:44 left in the fourth quarter. It was an intense final quarter between the two teams, but at the start of the game, Daniel Johnson came out and led the Panthers to an 11-0 run before Riley Meldrum and, as we mentioned, Woolacott medalist Yawan Stepney helped them fight back. It took Cooper Osborne from the Woodville Warriors to lift them back into the game. He had 11 points for the game and produced some really important plays for them, but they still trailed 49-45 at the main break. But it was DJ, as you mentioned, Megan, that kept hitting the scoreboard at regular intervals. He finished with 18 points in the third quarter to give the South Adelaide Panthers that 3-point lead going into the final change, and that's when the bizarre event happened with the fire alarm. Apparently, according to sources, it was a toasty machine that had some extra steam that came off it that forced everyone out of the stadium. After restart, not only of that, but also Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire" was played during the warm-up by the local MC. So Bizarre chain of events, but in the end, South Adelaide with Daniel Johnson finishing with the 10th 40-point game of the NBL1 Central, 42 points with 5 triples at 56%. Alex Starling, who was also crowned Defensive Player of the Year in the men's, 21 points, 17 rebounds, and 4 steals for the All-Star 5 selection. Yuan Stepney, 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 rebounds and steals. And Joe Jackson with 15 points and 9 rebounds. And the Panthers move on. The Woodville Warriors season, unfortunately, they've been evacuated from the finals, Megan.
Meanwhile, at the Nest, one of the great contests of the season unfolded in the qualifying final.
It certainly was. It was the Eagles that actually got the fast start. Adam Doyle dominated, and Greg Mays had 16 points in the first half for 48-47 lead, but they had to weather Jacob Rigoni and his three-point shooting. But it looked like the Eagles were going to go away with it. They led by 16 points in the final term, courtesy of Malik Mashara of Melbourne United and Greg Mays with a bunch of dunks and some great play across a 4-minute patch of the third quarter. But Jordan Forbes, who was actually crowned the MVP of our league, as well as All-Star 5, he led the Sturt Sabres back, and he had 18 points in the final term. He shot some outrageously long three-pointers that tied the score with 15 seconds left in the contest, and it came down to an inbound pass, but before the ball was inbounded, a Sturt Sabre committed a foul and therefore sent Greg Mays to the free throw line. He iced it with one free throw. They were able to keep possession. They were able to win the game. Greg Mays, 32 points, 9 rebounds and 2 blocks. Malika double-double with 18 points and 10 rebounds. Adam Doyle with 26 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds and steals. And the Sturt Sabres, Forbes, had 32 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists and 2 steals. Jacob Rigoni, 6 triples at 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists and 2 steals, Megan.
Well, it wasn't as close in the women's qualifying final, but the Flames and the Tigers had a pretty tight game there too.
It was a bit of a surprise in the end because you thought that Southern Tigers finishing second on the ladder were going to come out firing, and they did certainly through Morgan Yeager, who also made All-Star 5. She had 14 points in the opening quarter before Sophie Kerridge of the Norwood Flames in the second quarter went and face-guarded her the entire second quarter and kept her to 0 points. And then a flame got cooking, Megan. It was Georgia Smith, the former Oakton Wolf Women's British Basketball League player and also NBL1 West product over there. She reeled off 20 points in 11 minutes of unbelievable shooting. She shot 6 of 9 triples to give the Flames the lead at the half, 46-60. In the third quarter, Morgan Yeager actually picked up a 5th foul with 17 minutes to go in the game, and she was out of it. So the Tigers needed someone to help them come back. So it was Molly McKendrick, who finished with 22 points, 10 rebounds and 9 assists, and Brittany Hernandez with 14 points and 11 rebounds and a double-double. But you just couldn't stop All-Star 5 selection Allie Wilson, 19 points, 17 rebounds and 6 assists, and the Norwood Flames took out the win by 8 points. They move on, and the Southern Tigers do get a second chance though, Megan, so we'll see if they can bounce back next week.
Well, the Panthers also advance because they've knocked the Rockets out in the elimination final.
Yeah, a few people thought this might have been a surprising result considering the WNBL quality of the North Adelaide Rockets with Brooke Basham, who also was named MVP of the league, and Laurie Mansfield, but was actually Ash Spencer, the former Bendigo Spirit player, that struck the North Adelaide Rockets down with a huge haul of 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 offensive rebounds. And it was Holly Forbes with 7 points, 18 rebounds, including 5 offensive, that really got the Panthers going. And credit to Hannah Stewart, who guarded Brooke Basham the whole game and kept her to less than 20% from beyond the arc. So not great three-point shooting from the Rockets in the end. But Spencer was the one who finished off the Rockets across the second half. She finished with 17 in the first half, but then came up with 10 final quarter points to really help her team get across the line. She had helped her team get 22 offensive rebounds. The Rockets' Jordan Freer was their best with 16 points, 7 rebounds and 2 blocks to cap a huge month for her. Mansfield had 13 points, 10 rebounds and 6 assists. And Basham, even though she was quelled, she still managed 10 points and 8 rebounds. But the South Adelaide Panthers proved that defense wins you big games to the finals, and they're going to move on to play the Southern Tigers, who they're staring down a 9-game winning streak they have to break in order to advance through the finals now. It's going to be a sensational finish to the season, Megan.
An action-packed second week of finals coming up this weekend. We can't wait to see what unfolds in both the men's and women's, and we'll talk about that this time next week. Thanks, Tristan, and we'll see you then.
No problem, Megan. It's always a delight to talk NBL1 Central with you in the House of Hoops here in SA.
Well, the final round of the regular season has been completed in NBL1 West, and to bring us up to speed on everything that's happening and more, as usual, is Greg Hire. Welcome, Greg.
Thanks, Meg. It's been a very exciting weekend or week. The awards night, milestone games, season highs, but as always, my highlight of the week.
And the highlight of mine, shout out to Julian O'Brien, who no doubt will be watching and analysing our performance this week as usual. Now, Greg, let's start with that milestone because it is the biggest milestone of them all and it was celebrated in emphatic style.
Yeah, well, we had two across both the men's and women's competitions, and we first speak of Casey Milovich reaching 550 games, which is the first time ever done over here in WA. And, you know, the MVP is awarded after her, or sorry, maybe not awarded after her, but named in recognition of her incredible career at one club. She's obviously a former WNBL player, but they played against Lakeside Lightning this week, who were trying to make the playoffs. So it wasn't like a walk in the park. And ridiculous to think she's played 550 games. You missed a year through COVID, and she's still playing like at an extremely high level. And so she had 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. And Sarah Toina and Hannah Hank, respectively, had 23 and 18. But the storyline is Casey Milovich, 550 games. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, it hurts me walking up the stairs as I get to the office today, and she's still playing games on a weekly basis and playing really well. So the Mandurah Magic get a win in her milestone game, but recognition for an absolute legend and club stalwart.
Yeah, absolutely. 550 not out, more to come there, that's for sure. Let's move on to the Cougars. They've had an unbelievable season.
Yeah, going 18-2, and in doing so, the all-time record for the club in the women's team. And Sarah Mortensen, she exploded 31 and 13 boards. She's had a exceptional year. And they overcame a real gallant Eastern Suns outfit who, in order for them to qualify and be, I guess, certainties that had to win, unfortunately they didn't, but they still made the playoffs. But, you know, credit to the Coburn Cougars. They've had a couple of, losses here and there, but Tyrone Thwaites has certainly changed that whole club and what that looks like. And, you've got Stephanie Gorman, who signed with the Perth Lynx, Paddy Brosman, who came in as a late signing, imports, Jewel Williams, Jesse Edwards. Like, that starting five, certainly potent. Like, you could put them in a WNBL outfit, and I think you wouldn't, question how they would go. So, now it turns to the Rockingham Flames this very first week. It's interesting interviewing players and coaches on the red carpet. You're talking to Taya Burrows. She eagerly anticipating this. They feel like they're built for the playoffs. And then Tyrone Thwaites is quietly confident that their outfit, going 18-2, will steamroll into the grand final.
Now, let's move across to the men's side of things because it was Seb Selena's party, but it was Joe Cook-Green who brought the celebrations.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Seb Selena's sort of ironic that he breaks the all-time men's games record on the very court that's named after Troy Clark. So they played Coburn Cougars on Friday night. He played 513 games, eclipsed it. I know Troy Clark would not be happy about this because he tore his calf muscle in his milestone game. And Seb Selenas is about to play another 2 years, I reckon. But the storyline was Joe Cook-Green. They went to a double OT thriller. He played all 50 minutes. He had 54 points, nearly got the upset win. Eastern Suns unfortunately faltered towards the back end of the season. But I reckon Joe Cook-Green's done himself favours in terms of auditioning for the NBL. He's been compared to a Marshall Nelson, and obviously he's had an opportunity at the NBL level. But I'm a massive fan of him, and 54 points. Geez, played all 50 minutes. I know there was a few sore bodies on Saturday morning, but yeah, incredible effort from all accounts.
Let's talk about Willerton because they were led by one of their import stars, not for the first time.
Nah, absolutely right. Darnell Hoskins Jr. It was needed. They needed to split the weekend at least after Perry Lakes dropped their game against the Joondalup Wolves, and another overtime game was a pretty crazy weekend of results. But now Willerton finished third, and they'll head up to Geraldton at Active West. I'm not sure what's a better challenge, going against Geraldton on their home court or Rockingham Flames to the Hot House. But Darnell Hoskins went against Biora Tok, the past player of the week, and he exploded again. Biora Tok, 40 points. So credit to him. He's had a ridiculous last 2-3 weeks. But Darnell Hoskins, I mean, he, if anything, is going to be the reason why they are playing off for a championship. 30 points, he can explode, high potent shooter. Gorjak Gak, I mean, obviously he was the defensive player of the year for the season, but I think Darnell Hoskins, Mark Worthington has slotted back into the lineup. He had some injury concerns, had a strained calf muscle. We know that's an old man's injury, and we know he's old. So hopefully he'll be all right for the playoffs. Look, Willerton split that game, go third, and exciting times for them now.
Exciting times ahead this weekend because the finals action begins. Greg, before we go, run us through what you're looking forward to, what you've got your eye on across both men's and women's this weekend.
Yeah, I think if I'm looking at the men's comp, I'm definitely going on that, I guess, the freeway series, as they like to call it, which is Warwick and Joondalup. They're rivals in north of the river, 6 and 7 seed. Their seasons have been inconsistent. Joondalup recruited heavily, this off season, and we're expected to challenge for the championship. They're now sitting at that 6, and then we look at the Warwick Senators, led by Southeast Melbourne Phoenix assistant coach Luke Brennan. They've got some studs: Cody Ellis, Caleb Davis, Ethan Elliott. Like, they're all guys that can get the job done, and so that's going to be a highly anticipated matchup. I love that there's a rivalry within there. And then obviously Rockingham Perry Lakes, who, in the past few years have had some testy challenges. On the other side, I sort of mentioned it before, but, I predicted last week Willerton Tigers to win the championship. That has to start when they go against the Joondalup Wolves. Like, Willerton have been, the form team. I think they're nearly up to 10 games on the trot. So them and Joondalup Wolves on their home court, if they win this, that's a level of confidence, and they'll go into the grand final series playing well. And I mean, Alex Sharp, she had a 19-board game again. Like, talk about a player that's going to come into a WNBL season full of confidence. That's one name that's sure to watch, and I think it's going to have a breakout year in the WNBL as well.
Well, we can't wait for all of the finals action to tip off this weekend, and Greg will be back this time next week to wrap up the first week with you. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you then.
Can't wait, Meg. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for joining us on another massive edition of the NBL1 show. How great is Jason Cadee? He honestly is one of, there's so many people, isn't there, right around the country that make this game so great. It was awesome to catch up with him, and great to check in with all of our experts and get a bit of a temperature check on everything that's happening now. We are into postseason action right around the country. Can't wait to see what unfolds this weekend. Make sure to catch it all on KO Freebies, on the NBL1 app, and our socials, where you won't miss a minute. Enjoy all the basketball action, and we'll see you again next week.